Hi, I'm back for another First Chapter Fridays. This is Miss Julie from the Byron Library, and today I'm going to be reading a few longer chapter books that are more for the 3rd to 5th grade level. The first one I'm going to talk to you about is Artemis Fowl. It's by Eoin Colfer. It's available as a hard copy from the library, and it is also available on Hoopla, so if you have a Byron Library card, you can check that out immediately. So the book jacket says, "Who is Artemis Fowl? A genius, a criminal mastermind, a millionaire, and he's only 12 years old." And I'm going to read the first chapter because it's short. It's actually the prologue. How does one describe Artemis Fowl? Various psychiatrists have tried and failed. The main problem is Artemis's own intelligence. He bamboozles every test thrown at him. He has puzzled the greatest medical minds and sent many of them gibbering to their own hospitals. There is no doubt that Artemis is a child prodigy. But why does someone of such brilliance dedicate himself to criminal activities? This is a question that can be answered by only one person, and he delights in not talking. Perhaps the best way to create an accurate picture of Artemis is to tell the by now famous account of his first villainous venture. I have put together this report from first-hand interviews with the victims, and as the tale unfolds, you will realize that this was not easy. The story began several years ago at the dawn of the 21st century. Artemis Fowl had devised a plan to restore his family's fortune, a plan that could topple civilization and plunge the planet into a cross-species war. He was 12 years old at the time. That one sounds pretty good, I think. So if you enjoy this, there's more in the series. This is book 1. Okay. My next book I'm going to talk to you about is a newer book. It's called The Endlling, The Last. It's the first in a series, and it's by Katherine Applegate, who's known as the author of The One and Only Ivan and many other books. So this is a brand new, it's a fantasy series, and she's starting this off with the world building. So you can see from the front that there's this one looks kind of like a dog, but it's not, and this creature looks a little different too. So it goes like this. The Endling. Long before I heard the word, I was used to being last. I was the runt, the youngest and by far away the smallest of my 7 siblings, which meant I was the last to drink, the last to eat, and the last one to be protected. As the lowest ranking member of our dwindling pack, I accepted my place without resentment. Well, much resentment anyway. It was perhaps only fail. My failings were many, or so I was often told. I was too young to be clever, too small to be helpful. My feet were large and clumsy. They tangled when I ran. My coat was untidy. My manners dreadful. I once ate an entire leg of antleer before my rightful turn. I was curious to a fault. I wandered too far and wondered too often. I was, in short, a disappointment at my only task in life, which was to do my best, like all Darrens, to stay quietly alive. So Darrens, that's what these species are called. These days, you have been as likely to pet a unicorn as you would to sight a Darren. Our pack elder, Dilator, white-muzzled and frail, liked to speak of a time when our ancestors roamed in great bands, hundreds of Darrens at a time across the Nadaran plains. At night, they would form into family groups, gathering around to prepare wild grasses and berries, or perhaps cook the stray badger or crochet. But all that was long ago. Now, there were just a few of us left in our part of the world, a single band of 4 families cowering together, meek as mouselings, hiding from humans, those most unpredictable of predators, hiding from the sun itself. Some said there were more Darns far away, living in mountain caves or distant lands. Some said those sightings the result of misguided hope. Darns are often mistaken for dogs, and we share many physical similarities. Dogs, however, can't walk upright. They aren't able to glide from tree to tree. They can't speak to humans. And dogs aren't, forgive me, the sharpest claws in the hunt, if you catch my meaning. In any case, Whether there were more of us or not, Dillentor feared we would all be gone soon, slaughtered for our warm and silky fur. Like the Carcelian seal hunted by humans to extinction, or the red marlow devastated by disease, or the blue-tusted zigguin wiped out when its territory was destroyed in the long-ago war. It seemed there were many ways to leave the world forever. We didn't want to believe our days were numbered, but here is what we did know. Once we'd been many, and now we were few. My parents feared I would be the first among us to die when trouble came, and trouble, they knew, was fast approaching. I was small and sometimes disappointing, but I knew I could be brave as well. I was not afraid to be the first to die. I just did not want to be the last to live. I did not want to be the Endling. So that's The Endling, The Last, book 1 in the new series by Katherine Applegate. Hey, my next book is Kingdom Keepers. Disney After Dark is the first book in that series, and it's by Ridley Pearson. And I'll read a tiny bit from the back of the jacket. It says, 5 young teens are tapped as models for theme park guides, find themselves pitted against Disney villains and witches who threaten both the future of Walt Disney World and the stability of the world outside its walls. So that's at the back, and it starts like this. He found himself standing next to the flagpole in Town Square, in the heart of the Magic Kingdom, in his pajamas. How he'd gotten there, he had no idea. His last memory was climbing into bed. It felt like only minutes earlier. Gripped by a sense of panic, awed by the sight of the Cinderella castle at night, Finn Whitman briefly recalled that he'd had other similar dreams recently, always in the Magic Kingdom, always at night. But in his 13 years, none so real, so vivid as this. He felt a breeze on his face. He smelled the wet earth of a flower bed not far away. He heard the distant whine of traffic and the buzz of a motorboat on the lake behind him. It looked so different, he thought, only to realize he'd spoken out loud. Main Street stood empty, not a person in sight. He glanced around and quickly saw he was not alone. Not so different as all that, came a man's voice, though faint. It startled Finn. He looked around again, and this time trying to find the source of that voice. There, an old guy with white hair on a bench in front of the exhibition hall. He was so close to the seated sculpture of Goofy that Finn hadn't noticed him. Finn moved toward the man crossing the empty street. He felt unusually light, almost buoyant. The old man wore khakis, a collared shirt, and a name tag, Wayne. Where is everybody? Finn asked, struck by the electronic sound of his own voice. Is it empty? The man asked, looking up anxiously. Tell me what you see. Finn wondered if the old guy was blind. He seemed to be looking right at Finn. His blue eyes looked perfectly normal. Still, maybe he couldn't see. Well, Finn said politely, it's like empty and stark out there. It's just the two of us. So that's Disney After Dark, the first book in the Kingdom Keepers series. And the last one I'm going to share with you is The Vanderbeekers of 134th Street. This book is in Hoopla also and available for checkout at the library. And it's written by, I got to look at the author. Karina Glaser. This is the first, there's I think 3 books in this series. We own the hard copies. I'm not sure if all of them are in Hoopla, but try the first one. So this book starts on Friday, December 20th, it says. In the middle of a quiet block on 141st Street, inside a brownstone made of deep red shale. My lights just went out, so I got to stand up. Sorry. Okay. The Vanderbeeker family gathered in the living room for a family meeting. Their pets, a dog named Franz, a cat named George Washington, and a house rabbit named Pangini, sprawled on the carpet taking afternoon naps in the strip of sunlight. The pipes rumbled companionably within the brownstone walls. Do you want the good news or the bad news first? The 5 Vanderbeeker kids looked at their parents. Good news, said Issa and Lainey. Bad news, said Jessie, Oliver, and Hyacinth. Righto, said Papa. Good news first. He paused and adjusted his glasses. You kids all know how much Mama and I love you, right? Oliver, who was 9 years old and wise to the ways of the world, put down his book and squinted. Are you guys getting divorced? Jimmy L's parents got a divorce, and they let him get a pet snake. He kicked the back of his sneakers against the tall stack of ancient encyclopedias he was sitting on. No, Papa began. Is it true? 6-year-old Hyacinth whispered, tears pooling in her round eyes. Of course Mama said. What's a dorse? Interrupted Lainey, who was 4 3/4 years old and practicing her forward rolls on the carpet. She was wearing an outfit of red plaids, lavender stripes, aqua polka dots that she had matched herself. It means Mama and Papa don't love each other anymore, said 12-year-old Jessie, glaring at her parents behind her chunky black glasses. What a nightmare. We'll have to split our time between them, added Isa, Jessie's twin. She was holding her violin and jabbed her bow against the arm of the couch. Alternating holidays and summers and whatnot. I think I'm going to be sick. Mama threw up her hands. Stop! Just everyone, please, stop! Papa and I are not getting a divorce. Absolutely not. We're going about this all wrong. She glanced at Papa, took a deep breath, and briefly closed her eyes. Isa noticed dark circles under her mom's eyes that hadn't been there the week before. Mama's eyes opened. Let's start over. First, answer this question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how much do you like living here? The Vanderbeeker kids glanced around at their home, a brownstone in Harlem, New York City. It consisted of the basement, a ground floor with a living room that flowed into a kitchen, a bathroom and a laundry room, and a first floor with 3 bedrooms, a walk-in closet turned bedroom where Oliver lived, and another bathroom, all lined up in a row. A door on the ground floor opened to a skinny backyard where a mommy cat and her new litter of kittens had made their home under a hydrangea bush. The kids considered Mama's question. 10, Jessie, Isa, Hyacinth, and Lainey replied. 1,000,000, said Oliver, still squinting suspiciously at his parents. It's the best place in the world, reported Lainey, who somersaulted again and knocked down Isa's music stand. The pets scattered except France, who didn't flinch, despite now being covered in sheet music. We've lived here most our lives, said Isa. It's the perfect home. Except the Biederman, of course, added Jessie. The Biederman lived on the brownstone's 3rd floor. He was a seriously unpleasant man. He was also their landlord. Mr. Biederman, Papa corrected Jessie, and funny you should mention him. Papa stood up and started pacing the length of the couch. His face was so grim, and his ever-present smile, creases disappeared. I didn't see this coming, but Mr. Biederman just told me he's not renewing our lease. Not renewing our, Jessie started. What a punk, shouted Oliver. What's a lease, asked Lainey. Papa continued as if the kids hadn't spoken. Now you all have done a great job this past year respecting Mr. Biederman and his need for privacy and quiet, he said. I thought for sure he would have kicked us out a couple of years ago when Oliver hit that baseball through the window or when France used his front door like a fire hydrant. I'm surprised he's making us leave now after a spotless record this year. Papa paused and peered at the children. The kids nodded and looked at him with innocent eyes, all except Oliver, who was hoping no one remembered that little incident earlier this year when his Frisbee snapped a sprinkler pipe, causing a blast of water to shoot right into Biederman's open window. Papa did not bring up the sprinkler incident. Instead, he said, we have to move at the end of the month. The room exploded with indignation. Are you serious? So that's the Vanderbeekers of 141st Street. So I hope you enjoyed some of those. And like I said, they're all available on Hoopla to check out if you have a Byron Library card. And they're also all available in actual book form here at the library. Thanks for joining me.